Hey, I'm Dr. Jesse, and in this video, I want to talk about cholesterol because cholesterol is probably the most misunderstood topic in all of health. Yet, it's associated with some of the most deadliest diseases of all time: heart attacks, heart disease, and stroke. So it's vital to our survival that we have the right information when it comes to cholesterol. So let's waste no time and jump right into this very important video. So the biggest thing when it comes to cholesterol is that most people often think of cholesterol as being bad. However, that's not 100% true. Cholesterol has many important functions in our body, and the reality is that we can't live without cholesterol. So let's get a better understanding of just how important cholesterol is by going over briefly its roles in our body. Cholesterol is needed for our cell membranes, or the outer layers of our cells, which make up our entire body. And it's what essentially gives our cells, and therefore our body, its structure and rigidity. Without cholesterol in our membranes, we'd just be a big pile of meat jelly. Cholesterol is needed in something called bile. You've probably heard of an organ called your gallbladder. Now, maybe it was your doctor telling you that you didn't need it anymore, or you woke up in a bathtub with no recollection of the previous night with a big scar on your stomach. Regardless, gallbladders and the bile that they secrete are actually very important for digestion and health. You see, bile contains cholesterol, and bile is needed to absorb and break down the fat from our diet. Without bile, we can't digest the fat from our food properly, which can lead to bloating, diarrhea, and nutritional deficiencies, such as deficiencies in fat and fat-soluble vitamins such as A, D, E, and K. Now, probably one of the most important functions of cholesterol is its role in making hormones. Cholesterol is a key component of several hormones in our body that are necessary for survival. Cholesterol is needed in order to make estrogen and testosterone, two hormones that are essential in both males and females. Testosterone and estrogen is vital to our sexual development, reproduction, as well as our libido and sexual function. These hormones have also been linked to mood regulation, with low levels potentially associated with depression, mood disorders, and dementia. Testosterone helps promote growth and maintenance of muscle and bone tissue, leading to increased muscle mass, strength, and bone density. Estrogen is also crucial to maintaining bone density, and low levels are associated with an increased risk of osteoporosis and bone fractures. Testosterone stimulates red blood cell production, which can help improve endurance and performance, and estrogen may help protect against heart disease by promoting healthy blood vessel function, as well as helping maintain our skin thickness and hydration, and promoting hair growth. Without cholesterol, none of this takes place. Cholesterol is also needed in the production of a hormone called cortisol. Now, cortisol is another extremely important hormone that our body needs in order to survive. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone and plays a vital role in maintaining homeostasis or balance within the body. Cortisol helps our body respond to stress by increasing blood sugar levels, heart rate, and blood pressure. Although too much of this hormone can be a bad thing for sure, if we didn't have any of it, we would die. Cortisol also has anti-inflammatory effects, which helps reduce inflammation and swelling in the body. It regulates the immune system and prevents overreactive immune responses and autoimmune disorders. It modulates mood and motivation and can contribute to feelings of anxiety and depression if levels are too high or too low, and also helps regulate the sleep-wake cycle. Cholesterol is also needed in order to make the hormone aldosterone, which is a hormone that regulates the balance of electrolytes in our body, as well as our blood pressure. You might be surprised to learn that vitamin D is actually produced in our body from a cholesterol molecule. And vitamin D is sometimes referred to as a hormone because it plays crucial roles in our body, such as promoting calcium absorption and bone health, modulating our immune system, and in cellular growth. So now that we understand some of the very important functions of cholesterol in our body, we can now realize that cholesterol is not bad. And in fact, it's actually essential to our health. So why then, if cholesterol is so important, have we been taught to believe that cholesterol is bad? Well, in order to understand this, we have to go back to the early 1900s when a Russian physiologist by the name of Nikolai Anichkov was working on groundbreaking research studying the relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. Now, in his research study, Nikolai found that after feeding rabbits a diet high in cholesterol, a condition called atherosclerosis appeared in these rabbits. Atherosclerosis is when plaque builds up in arteries, which is a type of blood vessel, leading to the narrowing and hardening of these arteries, which can lead to heart attacks, strokes, and other heart diseases by blocking blood flow. Now, this study was revolutionary at the time because it was able to finally link a component of the diet as the cause of heart attacks and heart disease. Following this breakthrough study, more research began to emerge, and eventually it was even discovered that actual LDL cholesterol particles were found in these atherosclerotic plaques. This finding is what ultimately gave LDL cholesterol its bad reputation and led to the emergence and creation of one of the most popular medications of all time, statins, which worked by lowering the amount of cholesterol in the blood, therefore decreasing the rates of heart attacks, heart disease, stroke, and death in those who took them. So, what does this all mean if on one hand I listed all the reasons why cholesterol is so important for our health, and on the other hand I just showed you research talking about how deadly cholesterol can actually be? Well, like most things in life, cholesterol can be both good and bad. First of all, it's important to now understand that the cholesterol we get from our diet actually doesn't have an effect on the cholesterol in our blood. Although Nikolai Anichkov's research findings suggested this, there were some flaws in his study, and many prominent and reputable studies have since been done showing that there is likely no association between dietary cholesterol and blood cholesterol. This is also actually now agreed upon by the majority of the scientific community. Now, it is true, however, that LDL cholesterol particles are found in atherosclerotic plaques, and these plaques are definitely associated with heart attacks and strokes. However, there are some conflicting theories on what causes these plaques and increased LDL cholesterol levels if it isn't dietary cholesterol. Now, a lot of scientists, doctors, nutritionists, and other health experts will argue that saturated fat and red meat is directly linked to increased blood cholesterol levels, heart attacks, and disease. However, if you watched my previous video I did on saturated fat, I talk about how saturated fat and meat may actually be wrongly associated with these diseases and how the initial studies may have been lacking. If you want to learn more about that, and I suggest you do in the interest of your own health, I put the link to the video in the description below to check out after you're done watching this one. Now, as I was alluding to, the majority of health advice tends to recommend that a diet high in saturated fat and foods like red meat are the leading contributors to high cholesterol and therefore heart disease. However, I would argue that after understanding how saturated fat and nutrients in general function, that the main cause of heart disease and high cholesterol should never be attributed to just one type of nutrient. Saturated fats have many important health functions and benefits, and red meat and meat in general is one of the most efficient and nutritious food sources. I think instead we should be looking at the diet and lifestyle as a whole when making associations to heart disease and high cholesterol. I think the major cause of heart disease, heart attacks, and strokes is actually a poor overall diet consisting of excess calories. And there's plenty of science and research to back this. You see, if you understand the fundamental science of nutrition as well as cholesterol production and distribution in the body, you'll likely come to a similar conclusion. You'll realize that cholesterol actually increases not just when you take in excess fat, but when you take in excess food of any kind. So, let me walk you through the basic science of cholesterol to give you a better understanding. Let's start off with what happens when you eat food that contains fat. Your body needs to find a way to absorb this fat in order to use it. So to do this, once the fat makes its way into your intestine, your body essentially packages the fat up along with some cholesterol and protein. These packages are called chylomicrons, and they are then shuttled into your bloodstream so that they can drop off and distribute these fat molecules, also known as triglycerides, to cells that need them, such as muscle and fat cells. Now, muscle cells can use fat as energy, which is why they pick some up. But the majority of these triglycerides are taken up by your adipose tissue or body fat cells to be stored for later use. Now, once they drop off some of these triglycerides to those cells, these packages then return back to the liver with some remnants left over. Once in the liver may take some of these leftover triglycerides and cholesterol to use for itself for various functions. But if there is still a lot of triglycerides and cholesterol left, the liver will then package these up again, this time into smaller packages, and shuttle them back out into the bloodstream to drop off this extra fat once again to the cells. This process will repeat a few times until these packages have less and less fat, eventually turning into what are called low-density lipoprotein molecules, or LDL cholesterol, or as we tend to know them as the bad cholesterol. Now, these LDL molecules are then shuffled back into the bloodstream, but what makes them special this time around is that they are excellent at dropping off cholesterol rather than just fat like the previous larger molecules did. These LDL molecules are extremely attracted to cells that need cholesterol, such as cells that make the important hormones I spoke about earlier. Now, although these LDL molecules are clearly incredibly important for maintaining your health by distributing the cholesterol needed to make these important hormones, these LDL molecules also seem to cause some issues while in your blood vessels. Some of these LDL molecules are taken up by macrophages or immune cells, and this can trigger an immune response, which ultimately leads to atherosclerotic plaques. It has also been found that if you have high blood sugar, this will further react with these LDL molecules and cause more inflammation and damage to your blood vessels, causing worsening atherosclerotic plaques. Now, going back to the beginning of how this whole process started, I mentioned that when fat is absorbed by your body, that is essentially what triggers more cholesterol to be made and increase in your blood. Now, it's very important to note that when you take in excess carbohydrates or sugar or excess protein, your body will also convert those nutrients into fat. And as you can probably already guess, this will then cause your body to create more cholesterol and therefore LDL particles. Now, that's just a quick summary and overview of what goes on, explained in a way that I think most of us can probably comprehend. The process itself is a lot more complicated with many other factors, including other types of cholesterols involved, such as HDL, IDL, VLDL, and different types of proteins. But for now, I think this gives us a pretty good picture of what's going on. So this is why I said and believe that it's not just fat, or more specifically, saturated fat, that leads to elevated LDL cholesterol levels. When you understand how cholesterol works and how your body processes nutrients, you'll realize that excess carbohydrates or sugar and excess protein can also increase LDL levels as well. And if increased LDL particles are what cause atherosclerotic plaques, then you can see how eating excess of any type of food can lead to heart attacks, heart disease, and stroke. Now, as if this wasn't complicated enough, there's also likely another part to this story. So there is actually some debate on whether the LDL particles themselves are toxic, or if LDL molecules actually serve to help heal damaged blood vessels, but in helping, eventually lead to forming these atherosclerotic plaques. Now, there is a prominent physician named Dr. Andrew Weil, who is the founding father of a field of medicine called integrative medicine. Dr. Weil believes that heart disease and most chronic diseases are caused by chronic inflammation due to diets high in refined carbohydrates or sugar and processed foods, as well as living an overall unhealthy lifestyle, along with a few other factors. Now, he believes that this chronic inflammation is what damages the blood vessels and leads to these plaque formations, which cause heart attacks and disease, rather than the popular belief that high LDL cholesterol causes the disease directly. And there are actually many research studies that back up Dr. Weil's hypothesis. Some of these studies show that higher levels of a biomarker called CRP, or C-reactive protein, which is a marker of inflammation in the body, to be associated with an increased risk of heart disease. Now, personally, I believe that an unhealthy lifestyle, such as the one that Dr. Weil believes leads to chronic inflammation, is what ultimately leads to heart attacks, heart disease, stroke, and early death. And I think there is more evidence coming out now and continues to emerge that backs this. Whether or not it is through the combination of increased LDL, inflammation, or another unknown mechanism, the best thing that we can do to prevent heart attacks, heart disease, strokes, and most diseases in general is by eating a diet consisting of mostly whole, unprocessed foods, including grass-fed, grass-finished meat, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, and incorporating healthy exercise, sleep, and stress habits into your life. I think that although it is important to look at biomarkers such as cholesterol levels in your blood, you shouldn't ever just go by one number when evaluating the entire state of your health. In addition, you always have to take into account one's diet, exercise, and other lifestyle factors, as well as one's family and medical history. In practice, I've seen healthy people with what would be considered high cholesterol, as well as unhealthy people with low cholesterol. That's why understanding one's lifestyle history is such an important piece of the puzzle. Now, when it comes to treating high cholesterol numbers, statin drugs are used and have been proven to help prevent heart attacks, heart disease, and strokes. But again, in my opinion, you have to take into account the whole person and try to avoid just treating a number. As we now know, cholesterol is very important to our health, and we don't want to lower cholesterol in healthy people unnecessarily. But there are many people who can certainly benefit and do benefit immensely from this type of drug. However, like with most drugs, we have to understand that they are never a cure and only can treat symptoms. In the end, the only real cure is you. And what I mean by saying that is that you are in charge of your diet, exercise, and lifestyle. And it is those things that have the most influence over your health and well-being. Now, I do want to mention that there are people who have a genetic disorder called Familial Hypercholesterolemia, which causes them to have high levels of LDL cholesterol in the blood. If these levels aren't treated at an early age, this can lead to premature heart attacks, disease, and death. Now, some of these people can manage their cholesterol levels on their own with lifestyle interventions. However, many of them will benefit and have their lives saved and prolonged by using statin medication to lower these abnormally high levels. So if there is anything I want you to walk away with after watching this video, it is that health can never be measured by just one biomarker, one number, or one nutrient. You have to take into account your entire lifestyle as a whole. And really, the most effective thing you can do, again, is to eat healthier, exercise more, and live better. So, if you're ready to improve your health and prevent disease at the fundamental level in order to live a longer, happier life, but need a little help along the way, I encourage you to check out my company, Healthy Coach, where we can provide you with your own personal expert nutrition coach to work with you virtually one-on-one, giving you the accountability, motivation, and guidance you need in order to be successful in eating healthier and making long-term diet and lifestyle changes for good. Check out the link in the description below to learn more. And if you aren't subscribed already, please consider subscribing to my channel, to stay up to date on all health, nutrition, and lifestyle information. And please, if you learned anything from this video, hit that like button and leave a comment, as it really helps get this video out to more people. And if you want to get even smarter than you are right now after watching this video, then I welcome you to check out this one over here. I think you will really enjoy it. With that said, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.